Welcome Junior Takis, my name is Mrs. Ramel. This video I have prepared for the grade 12s to help them with their final exam preparation. In this video we will look at the Eastern Cape Prelim 2021 Paper 1. Right, question 1.2. Give the correct biological term for each of the following descriptions. Write only the term next to the question numbers. 121. The collective name for the membranes that protect the brain that we know is the meninges. 122. The branch of the nervous system that consists of cranial and spinal nerves, peripheral nervous system. 123. The branch outgrowth of a neuron that transmits nerve impulses to the cell body of the same neuron, that's a dendrite. 124. The plant growth movement in response to gravity, geotropism. The structure in the ear that absorbs excess pressure waves from the inner ear, that's 125. We know that's the round window. 126. The hormone that stimulates an increase in the rate of metabolism in the cells, we know that's thyroxine, and it could be adrenaline. 127. The gland that secretes aldosterone, the adrenal gland. And 128. A structure in the female reproductive system where semen is deposited in the vagina. 1.3. Indicate whether each of the following descriptions in column 1 apply to A only, B only, both A and B, or none of the items in column 2. Write A only, B only, both A and B, or none next to the question numbers. Right. 131. A type of gland whose secretions are transported in ducts or tubes to a target organ. That we know. Whenever you see the word duct, we know the answer is exocrine. So your answer is B only. 132. What is the symptom of Alzheimer's disease? That we know is memory loss and confusion. So it's both A and B. And 133. A type of lens used to correct short-sightedness or myopia. That we know is a biconcave lens. And so your answer is obviously B only. Right. 1.4. The diagram below represents a reflex arc. 1.4.1. Write down in the correct sequence the letters represented the neurons that transmit impulses to the effector. So it will be from D, C, and then A. So that is the order of the letters and the correct sequence. D, C, A, and that's how you write it with arrows. All right. 142. State the significance of a reflex action. What is the importance? To protect the organism or the person from harm, or to protect the person, or to prevent injury to the person. 143. Give one example of an effector in the human body. An effector is usually muscles or glands. 144. Write on the letter and the name of the neuron located only in the brain or spinal cord that you know is this one here, the interneuron. So it's C, interneuron or connector neuron. Write down the letter and the name of the part that represents a root of the spinal nerve that we know is obviously B, and that is the ventral root. And then letter and name of the neuron that's damaged when a person feels pain but is unable to react. So you can feel the pain but you cannot react. So that obviously will be the motor neuron, A motor neuron. 1.5. The diagram below shows some endocrine glands in a female body. 151. Identify gland B, that we know is the thyroid gland. Identify gland E, that is obviously the testes. It's weird, it says female body, but they're showing a testes, so just ignore it, grade 12s. 152. Name the gland that secretes growth hormone. We know that will be, of course, the pituitary gland. Name the hormone that stimulates gland B. Of course, it's thyroid stimulating hormone. Name the gland that secretes adrenaline. That's easy, adrenal gland. And 153. Give the letter of the gland that secretes a hormone responsible for stimulating the absorption of water by kidney tubules. We know that gland is A, it's the pituitary gland. Right, let's get down to section B. Read the extract below about reproduction in seahorses. Male seahorses have a pocket-like structure on their abdomens called a pouch. During a mating ritual, the female seahorse deposits a large number of eggs into the pouch using a structure called an ovipositor. The male then releases many sperm into the pouch to fertilize the eggs. The developing embryos in the male pouch are nourished by the yolk of the eggs. A fluid that's secreted within the pouch removes waste and supplies the fertilized eggs with oxygen. The young are born alive when they are released from the pouch. From this information, state the type of fertilization that takes place. That's easy, external fertilization. Then they ask you, give a reason for your answer. Why? Because the eggs are fertilized in the external structure. It's fertilized in the male pouch. Okay. 213. Explain 2 ways by which the seahorse increases their reproductive success. Right here, there's a large number of eggs deposited in the pouch to increase the chances of fertilization. Fertilization occurs in the pouch, which increases the chances of fertilization. Yes. The development of the embryo takes place inside the pouch, so they are protected from predators or environmental factors. Very nice answers. 214. State one difference between the reproductive strategy displayed by seahorses and vivipary. Well, the development of the embryo takes place in the male pouch, whereas vivipary, it takes place in the uterus. Embryos are nourished by the yolk of the egg in seahorses. In vivipary, the embryos are nourished by the placenta, and the fluid secreted inside the pouch facilitates excretion and gases exchange, whereas in vivipary, the placenta facilitates excretion and gases exchange. This is a lovely question. Make sure you write this question down and the answers down, and you're able to answer similar questions. 2.2. In pregnant female rats, progesterone is mainly secreted by the corpus luteum. It takes about 22 days for the rat to give birth after fertilization. Scientists did an investigation to determine the amount of progesterone needed for the successful completion of gestation in rats. The procedure was as follows. 100 female rats of the same age were selected. They were divided into 5 equal groups. All the 100 female rats were artificially inseminated at the lab, meaning the sperm were inserted into the female reproductive tract using a syringe so that fertilization can take place. The ovaries of each rat were removed immediately after becoming pregnant. Then, Group 1 was given no progesterone injection. Group 2 was given a daily injection of 5 milligrams progesterone. Group 3 was given a daily injection of 10 milligrams progesterone. Group 4 was given a daily injection of 15 milligrams progesterone. And Group 5 was given a daily injection of 20 milligrams progesterone. The number of rats who completed gestation by each group was counted and the percentage calculated. 221. Define the term gestation. It's the period of development of an embryo or fetus from conception till birth. 222. How long is the gestation period of rats? That's easy. That is obviously 22 days. 223. Identify the independent variable in this investigation. What are you choosing to control? The amount of progesterone. 224. State 2 factors that should have been kept constant during the investigation. Should have been. It should have been the same species of rats, the same concentration of progesterone, same type or brand of progesterone, same level of activity of the rats, same health condition of the rats, and same type of food given to the rats. Make sure you always start off with the word same. 225. Explain why the ovaries were removed immediately after the rats were pregnant. Now, each ovary releases progesterone. Okay. Removal of the ovary will ensure the investigator can give different amounts of progesterone to compare the effect on the gestation period. Okay. So by removing it, he could control the amount of progesterone he administers. 226. A very nice question this is. 226. Describe how the percentage of rats who completed gestation was calculated. Easy. The number of rats who completed gestation was divided by the total number of rats in each group and then multiplied by 100. That's how you calculate percentage. And then 227, explain why group 1 is included in the investigation, where there was no progesterone. That serves as a control, so it can be compared with the other groups to determine if progesterone affects successful completion of gestation. Right. 2.3. The diagram below shows the structure of the human eye. 231. Identify parts labeled A. We can see A is the suspensory ligament. Identify parts labeled B. That's easy. That's the iris. 232. State one function of part C. What is part C? Part C is actually pointing to the sclera. So what does it do? Protects the eye. 233. Describe accommodation of the eye when the person focuses on an object that is moving away. So that is distant vision. So what do you say? Ciliary muscle will relax. The suspensory ligaments become taut. The lens on the tension increases. The lens becomes less convex. The refractive power of the lens is decreased. Light rays are focused on the retina to form a clear image. This you should already have an answer that you can memorize and give back or regurgitate when you are asked. Right. 234. Explain the consequence that a damage to part D has on the vision of a person. That's the optic nerve. If it's damaged, no impulse will be transmitted to the cerebrum and there will be no vision that will be interpreted. Right. 241. Define homeostasis. That's easy. It's a mechanism that maintains a constant internal environment. 242. A man jumped into an icy cold sea. His body temperature is maintained through homeostasis. Describe the role of the skin in thermoregulation during this time. So he jumped in an icy cold sea. So what happened? The cold receptor in the skin are stimulated. Transmits an impulse to the hypothalamus, which then the hypothalamus sends impulses to the blood vessels of the skin and the sweat glands. The blood vessels of the skin will constrict. This is known as vasoconstriction. Less blood flows to the surface of the skin, less heat is lost. Less blood flows to the sweat glands, less sweat is produced, less heat is lost by evaporation, and then the core temperature of the body will increase. Then, 243. When a person is exposed to very cold temperature, the body loses more heat than it can produce. Explain why prolonged exposure to very cold temperatures without protection may lead to death. Because the enzymes will become inactive. It will cause all metabolic processes to stop or slow down, which can lead to multiple organ failure, no cellular respiration, and no release of energy. That's a very nice question. Please make a note of it. It's also making its rounds and showing up again more in the final exams. 2.5. The diagram below represents the male reproductive system following a surgical procedure to prevent pregnancy. 251. Identify part B. That is directly below the bladder, so that can only be the prostate gland. 252. State one function of part A. Part A is the tube in the penis, that's the urethra, transports semen and urine. 253. Explain why part C moves away from the body on a very hot day. Because the testis requires 2 degrees less than the temperature of the body to produce normal and healthy sperm. On a hot day, the scrotum relaxes in order to pull the testes away from the body, to avoid direct contact with the body, to maintain a lower temperature. 254. Explain why this procedure may fail to prevent pregnancy. Only one of the vas deferens is blocked by surgery. Semen or sperm can still be transported by the other side, so it can still result in pregnancy. 3.1. A person had severe hearing loss, which was caused by damage to the ossicles and inner ear. He underwent a cochlear implant. The cochlear implant partially restored hearing. When a person has a cochlear transplant, the sound waves are collected by the microphone and converted to a stimulus by a receiver and a transmitter. The impulse is transmitted to the cochlea by an electrode. The diagram below shows the structure of the ear with the cochlear implant, as you can see it here in the diagram. 311. Identify part B. What is part B? That's easy. That's the auditory nerve. 312. State one function of part C. That's the eustachian tube, which equalizes pressure on either side of the tympanic membrane. 313. Which part of the ear normally functions as the microphone? So the microphone, can you see? It normally functions as the pinna. Which part of the ear normally functions as the receiver and the transmitter? Right. So the receiver and the transmitter, look, that will be the organ of Corti. This is a very nice question. Right. 314. Explain why a person may lose hearing ability if there's a damage to the ossicles for 3 marks. The ossicles will not vibrate. Vibrations will not be transmitted to the oval window. Pressure waves will not be created in the inner ear. Organ of Corti will not be stimulated to generate an impulse. No impulse will be sent to the brain for hearing to occur. Okay. Explain why a person may lose hearing ability if there's a hole in part D. Part D. That's the tympanic membrane. So, what will happen? The tympanic membrane will not be able to create vibrations. No vibrations will be sent to the ossicles of the oval window. There will be no pressure waves in the inner ear, and the organ of Corti will not be stimulated to generate impulses, and there will be no impulses sent to the brain for hearing to occur. Okay, that's not too bad. Very similar the answers are. 315. Describe how part A and the brain work together to maintain balance. What's part A? The semicircular canals. So, how do they both work together to bring about balance? The cristae in the semicircular canals are stimulated, which convert the stimulus to an impulse, which is transmitted through the auditory nerve to the cerebellum, where they interpret it. The cerebellum will send impulses to the skeletal muscles to restore balance. 3.2. An investigation was conducted to determine the effect of auxins on direction of growth of the stem. The procedure was done as follows. 2 potted plants, 1 and 2 of the same species and age were used. The apical buds of both plants were removed by cutting the same length along the stem, as you can see. The cut apical buds of both plants were placed on separate blocks of agar jelly for 2 hours. 1 block of agar jelly was then placed on the right-hand top edge of the cut surface of pot plant 1, and the other block of agar jelly was then placed on the top left-hand top edge of pot plant 2, as shown in the diagram. So you can see that here. Both plants were kept in the dark box for 2 weeks. The direction of growth of the stem of both plants were observed at the end of this period. 321. Give a reason why the apical buds were removed. Firstly, what's in the tip of these buds? Auxin. So you want to remove the auxin. Give a reason why the apical buds were placed on the block of the agar jelly for 2 hours. You want to allow the auxin to diffuse into the block of agar. 322. Explain the results for pot plant 1. So what will happen in pot plant 1? Can you see? The auxin will diffuse into the right side of the stem. Okay. And there will be a higher auxin concentration of auxin on the right hand side. This will now, high concentration of auxin will stimulate cell elongation on the right side. This will cause uneven growth and will cause the stem to bend to the left, right? As you can see, it will eventually start to happen. Right. 323. Pot plant 2 was exposed to unilateral light from the left side by removing the lid of the box during the investigation. So they removed this lid here. Explain the results that were obtained. The auxin will diffuse to the lighter side, the left side, right? And it will move into the darker side, right? High concentration of auxin on the dark side will stimulate cell elongation. This uneven growth will cause a stem to bend towards the left side, or the lighter side. That's quite a tricky question. Make sure you have your rights and your lefts correct here. Now, it says here 324. Explain why fruit farmers periodically remove apical buds from fruit trees. Why? They want more lateral branches to develop, which will increase the yield, and the fruit will be accessible from all the branches, enabling easy harvest. So this was a nice question. Now I just want to explain something to you, grade 12s. Here it's showing you the lid, but look what it says here. It was exposed to unilateral light from the left-hand side. so it is exposed to light, and so of course that is why the plant will grow obviously towards the left. Okay, because now what's going to be taking place? Phototropism. So this is a bit of a confusion. So read the question carefully. Right, 3.3. The graph below shows the homeostatic control of blood glucose in a healthy person. So here you see the blood glucose levels. Blood glucose levels in a healthy person over a period of time. Here you see hormone A secreted, hormone B, and there you have this long line, the normal levels of glucose. 3.3.1. Identify hormone A. What could hormone A be? When the blood glucose levels are high, hormone A is secreted. That's insulin. Identify the gland that secretes hormone B. Of course, it can only be the pancreas. 3.3.2. Name the type of mechanism that controls the levels of A and B. That's a negative feedback mechanism. Here they also accepted homeostasis. 3.3. When a person is fasting, whether for religious or health reasons, he or she does not eat for a certain period. Explain the levels of hormone A in a person during fasting. So during fasting, what happens? The glucose levels drop below normal. The pancreas will not be secreted to secrete insulin, and so less insulin will be secreted or it will drop. 3.3.4. Describe how hormone B functions to maintain normal levels of blood glucose. So when the blood levels of glucose decreases below normal, the pancreas is stimulated to secrete more glucagon, which stimulates the conversion of glycogen to glucose, which will increase the levels of glucose back to normal. 3.4. The diagram below represents the female reproductive system during pregnancy. 3.4.1. Identify fluid A. Fluid A can only be the amniotic fluid. Identify the extraembryonic membrane D. That can only be the chorion. 3.4.2. Name the blood vessel in part C that transports oxygenated blood, of course, from the mother to the fetus. That's the umbilical vein. 3.4.3. State two functions of part B. That's the placenta. Any two functions. Serves as an attachment of embryo to the mother. Allows for diffusion of dissolved food from the mother to the fetus. Allows for diffusion of oxygen from the mother to the fetus. Allows for diffusion of carbon dioxide from the fetus to the mother. Allows for diffusion of nitrogenous excretory waste from the fetus to the mother, and secretes progesterone. Can you see it says from mother to fetus, fetus to mother? Make sure you always have that in your answer. Then 3.4.4. Describe the development of the zygote until part B is formed, until the placenta forms. So the zygote divides by mitosis to form a ball of cells called the morula, which further divides to form a hollow ball of cells called the blastocyst. The blastocyst implants in the endometrium. This is called implantation. The outer layer of the embryo becomes the chorion. The inner layer becomes the amnion with the amniotic fluid. After implantation, the chorion develops many finger-like outgrowths called the chorionic villi. The chorionic villi and the endometrium together form the placenta. Nice question, which is making its rounds again in all the past papers. 3.4.5. Explain one structural suitability of part E to perform its function. Now we're looking at part E. Part E, they're talking about the uterus. You can say it's a hollow cavity to accommodate the developing fetus. You can talk about the uterus being muscular to contract and relax to facilitate childbirth, and it's elastic to stretch to accommodate the developing fetus. That is a nice question, and they're bringing back adaptation questions. Thank you, grade 12s, for watching this video. Join me and watch all my other videos as well.